All right, ladies and gentlemen, are you guys ready to get things started? Let me hear you. Generations, if you will. Turtles. Yeah, tell the story, if you would, about how you guys met.
I was just making. Is this on?
Yeah.
It's just me deaf.
Barry, that's still not working as well.
So we were just making a joke about this, and I feel like I'm on a game show, and I said, well, Townie and I actually met on a game show. We were both contestants. What year would this be?
It was 85.
Use your mic.
Yeah.
So we were both contestants on Super Password. And if you know anything about it, or if you don't know anything about game shows, they film a bunch at a time. So everybody who's been selected to be one of the contestants, you're sitting in this anteroom, this big pool, and they have your name on cards, and the producer, the talent coordinator, like a deck, like pick a card, any card, literally that has our names on it. And that's how they decide who's going in. Well, there was like 5 of us, Townie being one, who really clicked, and we became friends afterwards and hung out a bit, not knowing that a couple of years later, or we bumped into each other at an audition.
Yeah, I think we did.
But does anybody want to know how well Townie and I did on Super Password? Would you like to know, Brayden? You take it away, Townie.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, Townsend Coleman won $200 in a bedspread.
Clarke won $150, but wait, there's more. A bedspread, a Mr. Coffee Maker, and a year's supply of pantyhose. Remember legs? That came in the big egg thing?
And I forgot to mention that
L''EGGS legs.
part of my prize package was also a lifetime supply of curling irons.
Yeah, true.
Well, good times, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Well, good times, everybody. It's been fun. Rob, welcome to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Rob Paulsen, ladies and gentlemen. You've been in the industry, and to be quite frank, and you've heard it from a lot of people, you are the legend standards in the industry. And really, and
it's true.
And I know that you know it, but it's the reality of it is so many people want to be like that or aspire to do that, or when they are thinking about Ninja Turtles, your voices pop into their heads. When did you all start voice acting? And not how did you get into it, but what were some of the first things you did that led into something?
Well, I think I can speak for most of us in that we are kind of a reflection of what most of the people who ended up doing a lot of animation, voices, and music started off doing live action, radio, television, stand-up, improv, and then what often happens when you move to a place like LA to apply your trade is that you put yourself in a position to get lucky. And by that I mean I moved to LA in 1978. I'm sorry, when?
1878.
People forget I tell them I was a busboy the last summer, so going around Jesus with a card to that place. I was out there, and I think same with Townie. I'm doing a lot of on-camera commercials. I'm doing episodic television. In those days it was Say Elsewhere, and Hill Street, and MacGyver, and stuff like that. And a lot of commercials, television. And my agent one day said, "You ever thought about auditioning for animation?" I said, "Well, sure." But in those days, animation was relegated pretty much to Saturday morning, which was fantastic. And it's really an end of an era. It was spectacular years ago. But our timing was good. In my case, the first things they sent me out on were G.I. Joe and Transformers. And I walked in and recognized many actors whom is that, you're allowed to see I recognized all these actors from episodic television growing up. And I thought, oh my God, Marsha Wallace, she was on Bon Noir. And there's, you know, so-and-so, he was on Laughing, or so, she was on Gunsmoke. All these, and they're having the time of their lives. It was just like the purest form of play acting. It didn't matter what you looked like. It didn't matter how tall you were, short, fat, thin, black, white, gay, straight, orange, but it doesn't matter. You walked in and all
How
of a
about
sudden...
Puce or
Yeah.
Ecru?
What's that?
Puce
No,
or
Puce. But there were, if you're a Puce person, don't bother. Or Ecru.
I think to add one thing to what Rob's saying, a lot of you guys will come up to our table
Yeah.
and say, I want to go into voice acting, and a lot of these kids, we call them, are in their 20s or whatever. Just to add to what Rob said, in our generation, I know, except for Corey Burton,
Yeah, and
Everyone I
Nancy
knew-
Cartwright.
That was
Nancy
my
Cartwright. Nancy Cartwright and Corey Burton are the only two actors that any of us know who specifically, Corey's from LA, but Nancy's from Ohio, and she moved to LA just to do cartoons. In fact, she studied remotely with Dawes Butler. Who's,
so anyone else that
Leonardo.
you see from our era was like on our way to a different career. Some of us still have it. For me, I tried all the different kinds, you know, from theater to whatever. And this is the one that stuck. So I went with it, and you will find that if you talk to most people in our category, it was, oh, what did I just step in? Oh, a career. And that's, and you kids who have grown up with, we never thought about who voiced the Archies. I mean, speaking for myself, it was just, I watched the Archies and, you know, Scooby-Doo, and I didn't care. And you guys come up, he's going, I heard you on this, and then I was watching this other show, but that is Cam. The way you guys know our voices is
Really neat.
uncanny to me.
And the only people I knew very well in terms of their names were Mel, June Foray, Dawes,
Exactly.
and you know, Wally Cox might show up like Underdog, you know, people would be on-camera actors who would do animated pieces. But our timing was excellent because after that, all these shows became syndicated shows. So often you'd get, like, right up front, you audition for something, it'd be 65 half hours right out of the chute. So you essentially had 2 years worth of work in between recording and post-production. And then you might knock in a couple of those, and man, and our timing was good because of the nature of social media, although it's not been until fairly recent, like since maybe 15, 20 years maybe. But our timing was great because Turtles is unstoppable. That thing is 40 years old, and it's not slowing down.
And more popular than the tours.
Yeah.
All the time, everybody comes to see it. Yeah.
Right, and so you guys could grow up and say on my computer, oh, I wonder who does the voice of, oh, that's Cam Clarke, oh, that's Renae Jacobs. And you do a couple more, and then people say, wow, I recognize Townsend's voice because he does the tick, and he does this, and he does that. It's the best job.
Yeah, right.
I kind of came to it from a circuitous route, same thing on camera. The only difference was, I guess, I kept doing it on camera, so I was kind of doing both at the same time, which was interesting and fun to do. But I mean, everyone's right that you didn't think about. Of course, I was a big credit watcher. You know, I love to watch the credits, so, you know, when I watched my favorite show, like Rocky and Bullwinkle, you know, that was immediately, you know, seeing who those guys were, and Paul Frees and June Foray, and those became kind of the gods. I was lucky because when I was like 10 years old, I think, I actually did a Jack Benny show with Mel Blanc, who was the king, the god, you know, beyond the god, and got to know him pretty well. And I actually, before that, I had done another show with Mel, and so it was really great to get to know him. What a lovely man he
Yeah.
was. Just so nice and so pleasant. Would do the voices backstage, and it was so much fun. So I did start to identify voice actors, but then it was a while, and you might have seen me working with my phone. I was not ignoring you and texting. I was actually wanting to add to the answer to this question. Because I think one of the first things I did was Jabberjaw, which actually started in 1976. So that goes back a
Was it
ways.
Frank on that too, Bill?
Huh?
Frank? Well,
Yeah, he was Jabberjaw.
yeah.
Frank was on everything.
Yeah, Frank was amazing. And so I got into it the same way, similarly that Rob did. I had an agent. I ended up being booked for a commercial without an agent, which was very weird, but there was something that they wanted from me, and so they just booked me. And the casting director said, well, do you have a commercial agent? And I didn't. So she recommended a commercial agent. It was a great guy named Herb Tannen. And Herb became my agent, and then one day he just said, well, you know, we also represent animation and voiceovers and radio voiceovers. And you interested in doing that? And heck yes. So the first animated gig I got ended up lasting 35 years, which was the Nestle's Quick Bunny, and that led to doing shows. So it was.
What did your Quick
interesting.
Bunny voice sound like?
Well, a really bad Edith Bunker is kind of what I chose for that voice. So, you can't drink it slow if it's quick.
I see what you did here.
Yeah. I don't know why that popped into my head,
Yeah?
but it worked. But it worked. Actually, they didn't know if it was going to be a bunny or a turtle. So I almost was a turtle first, but they didn't know, yeah. So they didn't know which one it was going to be, but it turned out to be the bunny, and that was the bunny voice. Do not ask me what the turtle voice was that I came up with. It was not Carol O'Connor. Anyway.
Yeah, I came from a radio background in Cleveland, Ohio, and was a rock jock for about 10 years there before I moved out to LA 40 years ago. And I knew that I could do some voiceover work in the meantime while pursuing an on-camera career, because that's why I moved out to LA, was do movie and TV, like Robbie did, and of course Barry and Cam, who grew up in California, but about 6 months, then I was lucky enough to get an agent straight away, and about 6 months after I moved to LA, my agent sent me on an audition for a Password, a cartoon. Well, no, it wasn't Password. It was just after Password, for an audition for a cartoon called Inspector Gadget. And I had never thought about doing cartoons before, but I thought, well, this could be kind of fun. And so I read on this and booked it, and a couple of days later was booked on my very first cartoon session for Inspector Gadget. And I found myself sitting in a little studio in Burbank with Maurice LaMarche. It was his very first cartoon. And Frank Welker, and Don Adams, and me. And that was it. And I looked around and I said, how in the world did this happen? But I had so much fun over that. I did the last 10 episodes of the series of during the summer of
Yeah, you killed
'85.
this series, didn't you?
I did kill it. Yeah. And I had so much fun. I asked my agents to please send me out on more of that kind of stuff, and they did. And boom.
And speaking of first series, I always like to share my first series. My first series I got, which was early out the gate, was for the remake of Johnny Quest. And I booked the role of Haji. And I was so excited, and I told all my friends and family, I got a series, I can be Haji. Some of us grew up with that, so that was extra cool. I don't know how soon after, maybe a month, I don't even remember. But I'm in the office doing some auditions, and my agent Rita raps on the door of where we're recording. She goes, hey, I need to talk to you for a second. Just, sure, what's up, Mom? And she said, I just need you to know that you've been replaced on Johnny Quest. And I was like crestfallen. And I said, Bill, give it to me straight, Doc. Who took over the part? Rob Paulsen. So if I have to lose out, I can't think of a better genius to take over for me. I was actually too busy, which is what nobody knew.
Renee, how about you?
So I actually started in voiceover when I was 6 years old. I didn't know it was voiceover, it was actually puppetry. I took a course in puppetry at Michigan State University. I was doing voices in the basement for all my stuffed animals, and my mother thought there were these people in the basement with me. But no, I was mimicking all the records that I had listened to, the Disney records, the Chip and Dale, all the musical comedy. I was just performing everything I had heard on those records. And so she enrolled me in this class. And this woman had a puppet show on what was basically public television. And so when the class was over, she taught us how to make puppets with our stuffed animals. She said to my mom, Renee's really good. I'd like her to come on the show. So I was doing voiceover, not knowing I was doing voiceover, when I was about 7 years old. And then went into children's theater, musical comedy, and opera, and of course wanted to do commercials and on camera. When I moved back to Los Angeles from New York, I also was with Herb Tamman, and they said, we have a voiceover department. Do you do voices? And I actually was like, oh my God, yes, I do voices, and that's how it started. And really, we were very fortunate. The 80s, 85, 86, golden age of our voiceover careers. Yeah. Every week there was an audition for another show. They were all about selling toys, right? Yeah. So Rose Petal Place and Strawberry Shortcake and Pony and all of those Glow Friends and all of those were really about selling toys. And Hasbro and Playmates.
Stripperella. Stripperella subscription. They actually sell in special shops on Hollywood Boulevard. So I've been told.
There's no line for it. So that's how I started. And eventually it was very interesting. Like Cam said, you have these aspirations of being on Broadway or being on camera. And then life is a journey, and you never know which way that road's going to go, and you end up, and it's certainly not an ending. It was a wonderful, and still is a wonderful journey on the road to animation, and how lucky we all are.
Yeah.
Now, I know many of you probably have some questions for the panel here. We've got a Power Ranger ready to ask you now. Here we go.
Okay, I have been wanting to ask you guys this ever since I heard you guys were going to be here. You know how during the 80s cartoon, Michelangelo would make a bunch of random pizzas, like marshmallow asparagus, like marshmallow pepperoni, peanut butter clams and stuff like that? I gotta ask, would any
Anchovy and hot fudge, dude.
Question, Michelangelo, have you changed your mind on chocolate chip pizza?
No, dude, it's like totally, I'm serious. It's like anchovy and hot fudge. It's as good as it gets.
With a side of Pepto-Bismol.
There was actually a con that we were at, can't remember which one, where a fan came up and gave us all empty pizza boxes, but they all had a Post-it on them that said what our favorite pizza was. This person had done research and had watched the shows, and at some point, I guess, we all said what our favorite pizza was. And so, anchovy and hot fudge, and mine was really weird because I almost would eat it, which was peanut butter, avocado, and jalapenos.
I remember the episode Donatello actually asked for extra pickles.
That's right, that's true, that's true. I don't remember, maybe pickles were on that one too. And maybe it was pickles instead of jalapenos, because the mind blurs. But I think, but definitely, that almost sounded like something you could eat. And actually, we did a con in Pensacola, and there is a turtle-themed pizzeria
That's right.
in Pensacola. And we went there, and we took pictures and all of that. And there they have a Michelangelo pizza,
Right.
which is marshmallow
And pepperoni.
and pepperoni. And people were ordering it. They really were, and enjoying it. So maybe it's a sweet, salt, spicy thing. I don't know.
I eat it.
Yeah.
Someone dare me, I'll do it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you for answering.
Thanks, buddy.
So Renae,
Hi.
I will say, watching the Turtles, I knew it was a show geared towards boys, but you were the main female character.
There you go.
What was it like being a representation for little girls out there that were watching a show that wasn't targeted towards them to help them still enjoy it?
That's a great question. So I don't know that I was so aware of I'm this female person who's trying to help young girls relate to the world or be strong or all of that. I think I was just having an amazing time with these most talented people I've ever met, and having trouble with my face, because after the recording my face would hurt so badly from laughing. But where I really discovered that that's exactly what April was doing for girls was at Comic-Cons. When I was meeting you and hearing your stories of, if not for April, I wouldn't have a relationship with my brothers. If not for April, my brothers might have beat me up, but now I have a role in their fantasy, and they could embrace me as a girl. Or I was inspired by April, and now I'm a pilot, I'm a reporter, I'm a nurse, I'm in the military. And we all actually hear these amazing stories from you of how Ninja Turtles have influence and may have even saved lives and rescued, and we appreciate that. And I feel so blessed that my character was able to do that for you. I don't know, I wasn't aware at the time of recording about that, but boy, I am so aware of it now.
The gift that you guys have given us, and the people, your older brothers and sisters, however long these have been going on now, we all would have known we were in the book of animation. We know we were there. We know we were somebody there, and that our name would be, in the book. But if it weren't for the con circuit, we would never know of what we were to you when you were in PJs with a bowl of cereal in front of the TV, mom and dad are still asleep or whatever. And it has been such a gift to us that our third act.
There is a fourth.
Maybe not on this planet. That this is how we are spending this time, not only together, but learning that unlike when I was a kid, I didn't think about those people. But you guys are a different generation that this hit you differently. So we are so grateful that we get to hear these stories. And as Tony says, we got some doozies. Tony, just tell them about the soldier that came up to you recently. I don't know what city that was.
Incredible.
Yeah, so earlier this summer we were at a con where a young man came up to me and it looked to be like perhaps he had been in the military, which indeed he was. He came up to me and he said, "Mr. Coleman, I just have to thank you." And I said, "Well, I appreciate that. Thanks. for what? And he said, you saved my life. And I said, I saved your life? How so? And he said, so I'm in the Army, and years ago I was overseas in a number of battles in Iraq and Afghanistan. And as he's saying this, he starts to tear up. And he said, you saved my life because I would wear this. And he showed me a patch that he had that was just Michelangelo, and it said Cowabunga it is on it. It was a Velcro patch that he kept on his left shoulder. And he said, whenever I would go into battle, I would put my hand over this patch and I would close my eyes and remember the attitude that Michelangelo had that would help him get through whatever difficulty he was going through in his life. And just what a joyful, never say die attitude that he had. And I just need to thank you for that, because that's what saved my life whenever I would go into battle. And then he hands me this patch that he was talking about. And he said, I need you to have this. I said, oh my gosh, I can't have it. And he said, no, I need you to have it. And I started tearing up, and it was like nothing I'd ever heard before. And we hear these kinds of stories. That's an extreme example, but you guys, just what it means to us to hear what Ninja Turtles has meant to you all in your own individual and separate ways is just so priceless and so special and so awesome. And I guess for me personally, the responsibility that I feel to keep this alive, to keep in my case, to keep Mikey's attitude alive, and to keep it going, and to look at you guys in the eyes and hear your stories, and thank you for what the kindness that you offer us through these stories is just beyond. It really is. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
So you guys, hearing all of your stories, starting out as artists, I'm gonna cry, you made me cry, because don't you as an artist dream about, isn't that kind of part of the point, is to make some kind of difference, or to maybe get, so would you ever think it would be a cartoon?
No.
I mean, because I've been around my friends that do this, and I've heard the people, and I've heard the stories, and it's gorgeous, but isn't that a beautiful...
Oh my goodness. And yes, you're correct. Anybody, to this day, I sort of only half-kiddingly tell people, folks that I wear long-sleeve shirts 24/7, 365, because my arms are black and blue from pinching myself. I mean, we are absolutely a family. We go home from every one of these events working with people we would choose to have at our funeral, and we love. And then we get to meet all of you people and try to find some way to contextualize all this love. And then we go home exhausted from saying thank you. Are you kidding me? And so yes, everybody, first you go into show business because you can't not do it. I gotta do it, I wanna give it a shot. I don't wanna be on my deathbed going, I wish I tried. And then you start to work a little bit, but oh my goodness. Somebody said, oh, you're the guy that does, oh, I love that show. Then you take it to this level, as Townie said, and the ubiquity of these shows now are everywhere. And we continually to meet people who tell us the most profoundly powerful stories. This is way bigger than ratings, merchandise. Obviously, this is not a charity. However, the depth to which these characters connect with people at their soul is astonishing, and none of us could ever have imagined it. As we all know, I mean, you can have a script written by Jesus and $30 million is someone else's money. And if nobody watches, it's a tax write-off. And trust me, Hollywood is a battlefield of shows that were a great idea and never went anywhere. And you're looking at a bunch of lottery winners, and we know it. So thank you for your point. It's absolutely true. You think, oh my God, this is bigger than just me, buying the car of my dreams.
Right.
This makes a difference.
We did it.
And
And none of us would have dreamt that that would have been the vehicle to do it. And someday, even though we've heard individual stories, as Tony has, and we have, that move us, but someday I really would like to hear from the fans in a more collective way why Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles triggered whatever it triggered in people. We've all tried to figure it out. Is it the camaraderie? Is it the mix of humor and action? There are other action shows. I don't know. To this day, I can guess, but I don't know. And that would make it, frankly, that would make a great book in itself, is to know what it is about this show that brought that kind of a reaction, because very few shows do.
Well,
That's right.
forgive me, but also what is so profound about Turtles in particular is that we, like I said earlier, it's not about anything. How much money you make, your station in life, doesn't matter. A few years ago, Tony, God bless him, was there with a camera, and I got to sing the national anthem at Dodger Stadium. And as I'm walking through the dugout to go sit down and watch the game, I get a tap on my shoulder, and I turn out Justin Turner, who at the time was the third baseman for the Dodgers. And they won a previous World Series together in 2020, in addition to the last 2 years in a row. But here's this guy, makes $25 million a year playing baseball. And he looked at me with his eyes as big as saucers. Are you really Raphael? I said, yeah, man. And so I signed a picture for him, and behind him was his beautiful wife, in tears, saying, Justin has every Ninja Turtle, everything. And when he goes to spring training every year, he takes his Ninja Turtle backpack, and of course he does. Last weekend, 2 weekends ago, I got to be at I'm from Michigan, I got to be at the Detroit Lions game. Well, all these 25, 20-year-old kids love everything about Ninja Turtles. Yeah. So and one more thing, the way it transgresses everything, your station, your whatever you're about. It is just this wonderful example of the liberal power of joy. And we know that's a big deal, but in this context, it's so interesting to see. I had the good fortune of being two Turtles, and when the last season of the 2012 iteration, we were told that they were going to get a celebrity to be a character called Fugitoy, who was in the comic books. So it's a 12-episode arc, and who do they get but David Tennant? Now, I love David Tennant. I know nothing about Doctor Who. I fell in love with David Tennant and Olivia Cole in a show called Broadchurch. I mean, are you kidding me? Olivia Cole.
Coleman.
Coleman. And anyway, and David. So the question, he can suss it out. He's a movie star. What I was essentially trying to ask is, we're glad you're here, but why are you here? Because we don't draw them, we don't write them. It's not as much as we would love it to be the Clarke show, and it should be. Until the day that people figure out how it should be, it's still the Ninja Turtles, right? So he beat me to the punch. He said, "Oh, mate, this is Ninja Turtles. Everybody wants to be a Ninja Turtle. Everybody says, I grew up with this show. Everybody, I know wants to be. It was like being Star Trek. Are you kidding me? No, I want to. I just couldn't say yes fast enough. Crazy. Yeah. Thank you for asking.
So kind of going off on what Barry had said on the reason why, I think it's kind of more where we kind of see a little bit of a turtle or a reporter in ourselves. We kind of reflect on, depending on how we were raised or how we grew up. Say if we're kind of more of a big sister or a big brother, we see leadership, or we're really smart. Like say if we're like the smartest in our family, or if we're just a big geek and a class clown, we just kind of like to make everybody laugh. So, and sometimes if we don't have that connection and we see that on a cartoon, we kind of go, oh, that person is just like me. So I feel that kind of brings
Excellent.
out connection.
Yep.
Connection.
Great point.
Because honestly, sometimes we don't, like if we're an orange in an apple patch, we don't have a lot of peers to relate to or reflect to. And if we see someone on TV, such as a turtle or a reporter or even a villain or just any kind of a character, and we have that kind of connection, I think that's the significance on why
Exactly,
it has such
Brandon.
an
You're
impact.
spot on, sweetie.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
point.
Because honestly, I kind of reflect in a lot of the turtles monthly. Like I have a good sense of humor, leadership. I'm the oldest and the first one, smart wise, and honestly, I think.
Let me ask you a question, Brady, because this
Sure.
connects into what Barry and you were saying about what is it. This just popped into my brain, and y'all can, raise your hand, or I don't even know how I'm going to pose this, but would it be different if we were on camera with these personalities? Would you relate
That's a great question.
if we were just, you have the monkeys, you have whatever show that has multiple siblings, be it the Brady's or the Partridge or My Three Sons, whatever it is, does the animation change it for you than if it were, I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding, than if it were on camera?
I would think that it would probably depend on how you can relate to if you're more into animation. Like sometimes it's just having that feeling of where you're secure, like in childhood, when you're like can relate to a cartoon. Because a lot of us grew up on cartoons, and some of us even as adults, so we still can relate to childhood cartoons where we can still find that inner child within ourselves, because a lot of people don't have that nowadays from what I've seen. So I feel as though I think that if we can refine our inner child within ourselves and all the childhood nostalgia shows that we have grown up on, such as Ninja Turtles or any other cartoons from Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, or anything where you've kind of been raised though, I think it really depends on how we see it in ourselves though and how we perceive the world. So I would think if you can relate to a turtle or you can relate to someone who's on camera, I think as long as you have that connection, then you will feel not only better about yourself, but it also kind of makes you feel like you're not alone in this world, especially if you come from like such as a harsh background, or maybe you don't have.
Good for you, Brandon. Very much a really salient point about this whole milieu, as it were. The late great Renae Aubergenois, on Star Trek, and I knew Renae quite well, and he was starting to go in a lot of these events, and we were talking about conventions, and he said, yeah, I was kind of like, Candy, we were talking about earlier, it's not, I don't know if that's for me, I think it really, I'm not William Shatner, I'm not, but he was an alien, and he had lots of makeup on and stuff, and he said, but I went to one event, and I met a young woman who, you guys don't know this because we're considerably older, but when we were kids, there was a real issue with a drug that pregnant women used to take called thalidomide, which would help them, their morning sickness, but one of the awful side effects that turned out were that serious, horrible birth defects, and the drug has since been banned. So, there are a lot of kids, sadly, who are born with these devastating birth defects. And Renae said, I met a young woman who lived her life in a gurney, and she was at this Star Trek thing, and they brought her up, she was waiting, and Renae said, oh my goodness, it's so nice to meet you. And she said, I just have to tell you, Mr. Auberjonois, that your character really speaks to me. Because I feel like an alien. And people look at me sideways all the time. Now, she's used to it. But she was born in that gurney, and she will die in that gurney. None of her limbs work. Her brain is perfect. Can you imagine a more difficult circumstance? But this woman had to, like that gentleman said, you need to hear this. She had to tell Mr. Auberjonois how much it meant to her that he played a character that had trouble because he was an alien. And Renae said after that, I thought, shame on me. This is a much bigger than being a part of Star Trek. These people find ways to live their lives in circumstances this many of us will ever know.
I'm gonna lighten it up a little bit.
Yeah, sorry.
With the fact that we were voiceovers. If we, Friends, it is a similar, if we had our faces, we wouldn't be able to walk down the street. And Cam, being the fragile ego that he is, oh, stop, no autographs, please. We could walk anywhere. I kind of was like, I want a little somebody to get in my face. So I was in line at a multiplex, what is that? What manner of thing is that? And there was a kid in one of the lines, one of the other movies, and I see he's probably 8 years old or whatever, and I see he's got a ninja hat and a t-shirt and the socks, whatever. He's even taking his plush turtle doll into the theater with him.
It's not a doll, it's an action figure.
This was plush. Plush is not action. Ooh. Plush is not. I want that on the t-shirt. And so I thought I'd give the kid a thrill. So and he's got this big ice cream cone. And I'm not making any stuff, y'all. He's going, like this. So, excuse me, guys, I go. Hey, so looks like you really like the Ninja Turtles, huh? Yeah. Well, guess what? I'm Leonardo. Oh, yeah? And I'm Donatello. And so here I am, like this. Okay, I'm just gonna, don't call security. And I just kind of went, okay, well, so much for wanting to recognize.
Let me show how to use a katana, you little shit.
I would have loved to have seen that.
But you know what happens now, and I'm sure it happens to you, because of things like this and a lot of social media, we always have videos that get blasted out and we love it. We do get recognized more than we, so every now and then it'll happen. And the upshot every single time is pure joy on both sides of the equation. And so people will say, I know you hear this, yeah, but it's the first time you've told me. Right. And they have to go out there, and they often, men and women, they get tearful. It's astonishing. So anything that makes people cry tears of joy to say, I just need to tell you, it's impossible to quantify. And by the way, Kevin Eastman, one of the half of the two people who created this thing, every time that question comes up, do you have any idea, ... Nope.
Yeah, right.
Now it's
And I think-
getting bigger.
I think another reason is the longevity. For the longevity is the way Kevin has handled it.
Yes.
Because he's given you so many different versions. And if it was just the same one over and over and over again,
I'd be really, really rich.
that's true, but you really get tired of it. So I think the fact that he was able to do that and keep it alive. I mean, I just went. My wife is a business consultant. I don't know what that is, but that's what she is. And she just recently had a retreat. What she does is she facilitates basically a best practices support group for CEOs. And so she just had a retreat, and we were all there with her, CEO members or friends or whatever the heck you call them. And 2 different CEOs came up to me to tell me that their associates decided to dress up as Ninja Turtles for Halloween. And showed me the pictures.
Is that right?
Of these business guys in the turtle outfits.
Great.
And so, I mean, it's not an accident that happened, but I really think that Kevin has just kept this franchise alive, and whether you like the different versions, whether you like 03 or whether you like 2012 or whether you like the Michael Bay movies or the original 90s movies, it's something for everybody. And I think that really has something to do with why we're all sitting here.
Yeah.
And why.
You have a question there, sir, with the microphone?
Hi.
Hello again. So also, if you guys are aware, because Renae was also, for the camp, if you didn't know, he was also Chef Lewis in The Little Mermaid.
What are you saying?
Renae, the Renae Auditions.
Renae,
He's Chef Lewis, and then speaking of David Tennant, if anyone knows the DuckTales reboot, he was Scrooge.
Great actor.
But yeah. But that's my question, because I grew up with a lot of you guys, on everything. Rob, how did you become Donatello in the 2012 after you were Raphael?
Well, it cost me a lot of money. I went and I said,
And he gave it all to me.
It was, and first of all, let me say that, hello, sir. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
I was actually at Nickelodeon working on a Fairly Odd Parents. I got a text from my agent saying, hey, Viacom, who owns Nickelodeon, now has the rights to Ninja Turtles, Lock, Stock, and Turtle. And they're casting a new series. They want to know if you'd like to come in and read for Donatello. And my response was, well, do they know who I am? Not arrogantly, but because I don't want to get there and say, oh, shit, that's right. Well, he's here. Let's just throw the old guy a bone,
And also because they never repeated anything before.
And so they didn't ask me to read for Raphael. And they said, oh, no, they know who you are. Just think you might be right for Donatello. Of course I'm going to audition. We audition all the time. By the way, it's not like we've gotten to a place where we never audition anymore. They just give us a pile of money. No. Unless you pay them, in which, so I went in and read, and ended up getting the job. But, just to be clear, and because this is honor among turtles, as long as it was clear that Barry was not involved in any of this, then it was fair enough. But because that is not what this is about. All of us have been in circumstances where we've had people who have gone and auditioned for things that we would have preferred they would ask us first, but they do it anyway. Regardless, that was not the case. But I'll tell you how important this is. When I went back for my final callback, John Cryer and Jason Bateman were in the room. And both going, oh, dude, they're like, oh, you're right. Dude, this is Turtles. They were flipped out. It was a huge deal. They're both filthy, stinking rich. It has nothing to do with that. It's part of super duper popular culture. And so it was just a traditional audition. I fortunately got the job. And it was a really good iteration of the show because the people who made it at the time were about 40 and they knew every lick of turtle mythology and plugged into the show, and they were genius for having this beautiful, sweet little crush between Donnie and April, because it really did open up for a lot of girls who go, oh my God, that's so sweet, because it is sweet. As soon as he sees April, it's like real life,
I think it's sick.
But no, it was.
I didn't get to have anything with April.
Real April. We get to smooch the real.
None of you have a thing with me either.
But this goes to, forgive me, but Barry touched on something that's absolutely important. That is, the franchise can withstand all these different iterations from different generations. What's that?
It's not really.
It does. That's how powerful the franchise is. That there have been, I don't even know how many TV versions, half a dozen now, and movies. Seth Rogen's doing another.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not about, it's not the same cast. Screw it. It's a new cast. And they do this, and this group of people likes that one. How wonderful that something is that powerful that it transcends even the way the Turtles look.
It's amazing.
The Mutant Mayhem
These
Turtles.
two young ladies.
People love the Mutant Mayhem stuff. It's completely different.
We've only got time for
sorry.
one last question.
Time is
Exactly, Gab.
I have a fast
We
one.
have to do it at the table. I'm really sorry. There's only time for one more question.
Yeah, I talked to you.
And it's all right. It's good that you do. We love the stories. I just want to make sure.
Did you have a question?
She had one right here. There you go.
I have a fast one. Hi.
Hi, honey.
Hello. So, super quick one. What is your favorite line from the Turtles that was not your own? And that can be from any version you've heard, seen, any character.
Well, of course, my favorite line from Raphael was in the script. It was, "Does the phrase 'go suck a lemon' hold any meaning for you?" Sounds exactly like something I would say. So that's my favorite.
I didn't pay attention to anything that anyone else was saying. As our friend Tress would say.
Yours is. Go ahead, Cam. Tell them what your line is.
She wanted to know what a line of other people is, and I wasn't paying attention to any of y'all.
It's okay, Rob. I
would
forgive
always
you.
say bullshit. We're marking our scripts, before we record. Bullshit, my line, bullshit. So I have no answer for you.
Mine was, we've got to think of something fast.
That's going to be on my tombstone.
Anybody else?
And no. Bullshit. My line. No.
What do you got, Renae?
I
Put
just don't
me
have that
down, you big ape! That's my line. I didn't listen to any of yours either.
Was there one from any other generation or any of the movies that you've liked from anyone else, or just
Well,
your
I
own?
can't say that my favorite line was anything that Michelangelo said, because when we were cast,
Oh, you gotta hear this.
they knew exactly who he was going to be and who that one was going to be. They knew they wanted Townie me, but didn't know who was going to be what. And they literally went like this. Okay, you're Leonardo and you're Townie.
With that much excitement.
Leonardo and Michelangelo.
Yeah.
And all I wanted to be was Michelangelo, because I come from ground zero of surf speed, being from LA, going to the beach every day. And I was so disappointed. And they said, at the break, we'll switch before we do the next record. And so I'm all excited that I'm going to get to show them. We come back from break, and we all sit down and go, all right, let's record. And I went, excuse me, you said we were going to get to sprint. No, we're good. Yeah, but we're good.
Cam was the gravel. No one could do that gravel like Townie could. That voice that has that little bit of a rasp.
Well, dude, I just stole it from Cam.
Because I didn't want to be the straight man part of the fun. They got all the jokey jokes, and I'm just, we gotta think of something fast. So I started pitching Leonardo, trying to be like a little parody of the superhero, which I got to do later in the Tick with this one. But, so at halftime, I'm making Leonardo a little more bravado like this. At halftime, time, the director says, "Hey, Cam, can I talk to you for a second?" I go, "Sure, yeah, what's up?"
Just like that. He doesn't, sure, hey, what's up?
And she goes, what are you doing in there? And I went, "Well, I'm just trying to make Leo a little more fun, kind of funny." "Well, don't. You're the leader, and you're the tent pole, and let these monkeys do backflips and cartwheels and all that stuff around you." And once I could grasp that I was going to be the straight man, I got on board, and I love telling these folks what to do.
Well, and it's also, Renae has a great story. Can you tell me a story about when you got cast? This is such a great story. Because you just remember that nobody knows anything about anything. And Renae got the gig, and it was, tell me.
So I auditioned for April O'Neil with every other woman who was doing voiceover in town, probably 200 people. And I get the call from Herb Tannen, "You've got the job of April O'Neil," and I walk in. And, we may look like we're 100% confident in ourselves all the time, but we're not. And if you read Rob's amazing book, Voice Lessons, you'll learn what being an actor is about and the ups and downs of insecurity and jobs and all of that. And I highly recommend it. But so I walk in and you're like a little nervous. It's the first day, and you sit down and you go through the first rehearsal, and the director at the time was Stu Rosen. Comes up to me in break. These guys are all out of the room. I'm still highlighting my script, and he goes, "I didn't want you for April." I'm like, "Oh my God." I said, "But I played all of the auditions, and everyone was, that's not April, that's not April, that's not April." So I said, "Well, I have one more, but it's not April."
Oh.
And I played your audition, and they said, "That's April." Like, okay.
Yeah, and you know what? He's dead. So that's the name of that tune, honey.
That's the end of this panel. We wish we could go on for 1,000 more years and take all your questions. We are here the whole weekend, and if there's stuff you want to ask us, please, you don't have to buy something to come up and talk to us.
Thank you so much, everybody.